Hey moms, today on the podcast, we've invited a friend of mine, Sarah Coates, who is a middle school counselor, and she has her degree in counseling, and she's coming into the studio to talk about anxiety in middle school and all the behaviors and emotions that go along with that. And I'm so excited. So if you have a child that struggles with anxiety or tends to be anxious about certain things, especially in those middle school years, you want to tune in today. So here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wire Talk. Thank you for joining us today. And today's episode is Everyone is Special, but today we are bringing in an expert, a very special that Mom and I both know. Her name is Sarah Coates, and today she's going to be talking about anxiety with middle schoolers. And it almost feels like a don't talk about it topic. So I'm excited to have an expert come in and join in us and share some amazing knowledge with us.
I am too, and I think Sarah's going to be the best person to interview because she is boots on the ground. She is at the middle school. She's talking to the teenagers or the preteens. And, we've already focused on preteens earlier this month. Mm-hmm. And now to have Sarah be in the school, listening to the kids, listening to everything that's going on, and then to share some insight with us, I just think it's going to be so helpful for the moms.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Can you think of any of us, the four kiddos, that struggled with anxiousness as we were growing up?
I think all of y'all a little bit had some. I can think of Taylor was definitely had some anxiousness. Honestly, Kelsey in high school had panic attacks. Emily, you had some anxious thoughts, and even Abby struggled with anxiety a little bit, and it was hard and it was challenging. We each developed it went through different processes with all of y'all, and I tried to teach y'all different tools to get you through it.
So what I hear you saying is a lot of kids have anxious thoughts, and Sarah's going to come in and help us.
Give us tools
to kind of work through it and communicate well with our children.
Right.
Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing from Sarah today, so let's bring her in.
Let's do it.
Well, hello, Sarah. Welcome to Wire Talk.
Hi.
We're so excited you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I cannot wait for today's episode.
It's going to be so fun.
I'm so excited.
So excited. Sarah, before we jump in, will you please introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little about you and your family and your background
and how amazing you are?
Just don't tell us the whole story because we would be here all day because you're so awesome. Just a little bit.
Yeah. So it was a Tuesday. Yeah.
It was actually a Sunday. Laugh.
It was actually Sunday.
Get ready to laugh.
So I'm Sarah, and I guess I'm originally from the Marshall Islands. I grew up in the South Pacific, but I'm here in the U.S. now, and I'm a mom of three. So I'm a wife, married to Tyler. He's an engineer. Mom of three. Max is 6. Liliana.
I cannot believe Max is 6.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I remember you were pregnant with him.
I had him at 4 years old.
I know. But it's just fun. It gets more fun.
Yeah.
He's 6. And my middle, Charlotte, is 9. So she is a 4th grader. And then Liliana is a 6th grader.
And Charlotte's your only one that has straight hair.
She's the only one with straight hair, yeah. So the other two have curly hair. But they all have the same dad. We do all have the same dad. I have to tell people that.
That's a good thing. I think that's a good trait.
I know, no judgment, but.
I love it. It's so great. And so we met through really Inside Out. Greg and you were leaders.
Yeah.
And I was just sort of the tag along. And then you became BFFs with Abby as her mentor coach.
Abby
I would say
was my favorite stub.
I know.
Am I allowed to say that?
Plug your
ears.
I
told me this before, and it still hurts, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's true, though.
She's not apologetic about it, so it's just fine.
But I went to the walk, and Emily was, I think you were interning, Emily.
I probably was. I interned for a good portion of my life. I feel like.
So anyways, we became fast friends, and then we're really BFFs.
I know.
We hardly ever see each other, talk to each other anymore, but we are still BFFs.
We pick up where we left off.
Exactly, and that's how you know you're a true BFF.
Exactly.
So, And then I feel partially responsible for your being on Instagram for the first time because that happened at a SOAR conference.
It did.
She had never been on Instagram.
I remember. It was a monumental moment.
And Stephanie Bishop drug her into that world. And then she became these little funny, what was your handle? It was funny.
Oh, goodness. Well, friends and fans always.
That was-
Yes, that's right.
The friends and fans, right? Shouldn't we all have friends and fans?
Yes.
That's what I like to think. People
It's
who are
just so funny.
listening, they're friends and fans.
Yes. So how did you get into being a counselor and then into middle school world?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to work with children, but I did not have a passion for a subject. So I didn't want
Okay.
to be a subject area teacher.
Okay.
It was the children that were the subject for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did my undergraduate in psychology. And
At
then,
Auburn University, right?
well, I did my undergrad at Berry.
So the Auburn was your
Yeah.
master's.
And then I went to Auburn University and got my master's.
War Eagle.
Yes, War
right.
Eagle. Got my master's in school counseling and landed my first job as a middle school counselor. And it's just been the most fantastic thing since.
Mm-hmm.
So I love those middle schoolers. And I think it's important that people know that there are adults working with middle schoolers who love them.
That's true. True. Because middle schoolers are not for
Yeah.
everybody.
They are not.
They're actually not for me, if I can just be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I raised 4 middle schoolers and
Mhm.
they all graduated and went on to become decent adults, but it was not my favorite stage. It's a silly stage,
Yes.
and I'm not silly.
Yeah.
But you are silly, and
Yes.
you're also very deep, so that's good.
So I've been in middle school, did that for 7 years, stayed home with my kids when I
Yeah.
had Liliana. I was home for 9 and then went back to middle school counseling and it's where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
So,
It's your sweet spot
yeah.
for sure. So you're getting your specialty in anxiety.
I'm getting my specialist in trauma
Ah.
and spending a lot of time just researching anxiety and I love all of that.
It's going to be so good because it's on the rise, as you well know.
Yeah.
And so what I'm looking forward to today is that the moms, hopefully you're going to give them some tools
Mhm.
that they can recognize this in their children, give them tools that they can put alongside their child and just help them through it and help them realize, like, you can do this, buddy. We're going to help you through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not alone.
That's the biggest thing I think for me is like linking arms
Right.
with those moms. I mean, you do it through your ministry, but then
Mhm.
at the school, like we want to do that too.
Right.
I want to don't do it alone because it's hard.
Right. It is hard.
Mhm.
It takes a village. That's what I always say. So, okay, what are some common signs and symptoms of anxiety in middle schoolers that moms should be aware of?
Yeah. So I would say it's funny because we were talking about this
Yes.
right before we started, and now OCD can be a sign of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that is like sneaky anxiety is perfectionism.
Mm.
Those kids that just spend an inordinate amount of time on assignments or getting things just right. Maybe they're going to crumple up something and throw it away because it didn't, meet their standard.
Right.
So those
Just read that last night.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's typical ones that we're used to, like that social anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
One that's kind of rare, but that we see, I would say, is that selective mutism, like those kids that will not speak up.
So
when
describe that selective
Yeah.
mutism.
So
that sounds
they don't have problems communicating. There's not like
Right.
a communication disorder. And maybe at home they're able to talk, but then when it comes to speaking to another adult about something that they should be comfortable talking about, they can't do it.
well,
Yeah.
I think you and I talked about this before. Taylor sorta, I didn't know that was the name of it,
Mhm.
but even when he was little, like, I didn't realize that's what it was, but he didn't want to ever tell his teacher. Like if I would write the teacher a note and I'd say, give this to your teacher, he would not want to do it.
Yeah.
And so I had to coach him through that. Hey, Taylor, your teacher's on your side,
Yeah.
buddy. You just go up, you just hand her the note, say, Mom gave me this to give you. You don't even have to say anything. Just slide it to her, and she'll handle it.
Incognito.
But I worked on that with him throughout his life. And like if we'd be in the grocery store, I'd say, go down there and get that box of spaghetti for Mom and then bring it back or whatever. Because he was just so like, didn't ever want to go outside of his, comfort zone.
Right.
But yeah.
And that can kind of be social anxiety too, just that. Like I'm not comfortable talking to people or in social situations, and I want to feel smaller. I don't want to draw any attention to myself. And really, what I see in the middle school is they can start out like all of those things we described, and then it turns into school refusal. And
where they don't want to go to
they
school.
don't want to go to school. And I would say that is, no matter what the start is, whether it's that like test anxiety, that perfectionism with classes, that it can turn into, for many or most of these, to, I just can't get to school.
So what does a parent do?
Yeah, well, it's hard.
Right.
It's really hard. And, several things come to mind. What we see in our building, what I see with our students, and when I talk to other counselors at other middle schools, just recognizing kind of the M&M effect is what we would say. Mondays and mornings
Okay.
are really hard.
Yeah, because they've been in the weekend.
Yep.
Now they've got to get back to it.
Right.
And
and as adults, like I hear my coworkers talk about Sunday scaries, right? So
Sure.
like everybody, okay, the work week's about to start.
Yeah.
And it's similar for a student that's struggling with anxiety.
Okay.
That Sunday night, it can start to kick up their anxiety, whatever that looks like at home. Is it anger?
Yeah.
Which anger can be another sign of anxiety. And then in the morning, it's so difficult to get them to school, especially a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Because they've just had this wonderful weekend. They've been in their comfort zone with their family in that safe place. And trying to start that week is really hard.
Yeah. Wow.
And mornings in general can be really hard. So for those moms, adding some time to that morning routine.
Yeah. Not be rushing them out the door.
Yeah. Waking them up earlier.
Yep.
Trying to do as much the night before.
Right. Have their backpack packed by the back door.
Right.
Shoes by the backpack. Just helping them in any way.
Right.
Because I can remember when my kids were in middle school, honestly, just getting them out the door, period. But if they've got this anxiety on top of it, it's just going to be worse.
It's really ugly. And then for moms or dads, right, that are trying to get out the door themselves.
Sure, for their work.
It starts to escalate.
And then the moms get angry or whatever.
Angry.
Yeah.
And so then the child is getting even more upset. They're dysregulated. And then now the mom is not calm.
Sure.
And you're feeding off of each other.
Yeah. Okay. This is good.
That is really good. So what can moms how can moms differentiate between typical middle school stress, like what's typical, and then kind of identifying what you were saying of like the perfectionism and things like that need professional attention?
Help.
I know it's not just perfectionism. It's just one thing that I remembered.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it's important to kind of talk about, we're not trying to get that anxiety level to zero.
Right.
That is just unrealistic.
Right.
Because anxiety can be helpful. Like it's this feeling in us that tells us something important is happening.
Right.
Is it important because it's dangerous? Or is it important because it's critical to success or critical to safety? So that anxiety level is not trying to come down to zero.
Okay. That's good to know.
Right. So some anxiety is okay.
Yeah.
So being nervous or worried about a test is fine.
Right.
Being nervous or worried to go to school is okay. Like mom and dad are going out of town, those kinds of things. It's okay to have that feeling. But when we talk about where you need professional help, and in school counseling, we don't diagnose. So it's important. I don't want to oversell like my, expertise or what we're doing in schools. We're not diagnosing, but we're familiar with those things. And typically what we see is when it involves an impairment of functioning. So when you're really starting to affect the family, affect how the normal day looks like. And what can be hard is anxiety kind of slowly creeps in. So it can be hard to recognize, wait, all of a sudden, how did we get here?
Right. Right.
A way to think about that would be if I were to go out of town and not a family member, like not grandma, right, that's comfortable, that understands our routine, but maybe a trusted, college person or a trusted neighbor were to come in. So familiar and trusted, but not super, super comfortable. How would I describe our routine?
Right.
And that's where it can be like, ooh, this could get tricky because am I leaving 20 pages of notes here for this person?
Right.
Are they going to be on call during the school day because they may get 47 text messages?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that would be a trigger that we're maybe to the point of needing some professional help.
Yeah.
So those are just some things to think in mind. Like, are we really to the point where this is affecting our daily life as a family? Like we have shifted things, our language has shifted. We're really redoing how, our family, operates because of this.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some common ways that a mom can help manage a child's anxiety in everyday situations?
Yeah.
So let's give her some practical tools here.
So first of all, practically, because this is hard. I mean, I had a mom in my office yesterday crying.
Yeah.
Because
it's stressful.
It's stressful.
Sure.
And it hurts. And when we're talking about our adolescents,
right.
I'm talking about 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old children, okay? Adolescents. Think about a 13-year-old boy that's crying. Like that just hits differently.
It just breaks your heart.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like it hurts when my 6-year-old Max cries, but like your 13-year-old son, that feels different.
Well, and if he's so debilitated by it and he can't function as a mom, all of your alerts are going up. Like, oh, I want to help him.
You want to help and you hurt for them.
Sure.
And just like a splinter or other things, you want to remove that pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So recognize that it's really hard to see your child suffer with anxiety, but it's not a splinter. And removing the pain can be damaging. So when we accommodate that anxiety, it can actually really hurt them. And that feels counterintuitive because we see the tears and we want to fix it. But we have to work through that anxiety. And what I tell my students is, with the middle schoolers, I can talk a little bit about brain development. We can talk about those messages that our brain is telling us. And that can actually be comforting for a student.
Absolutely.
So for moms out there to kind of, learn about, educate yourself on some of those brain things. There's tons of books out there.
Sure.
But educating yourself on those brain things. But I can educate my students on that. So then they'll know what's happening in their brain. So it's not just this out-of-body experience. It's acknowledging what's going on behind the scenes. And then we talk about your body's lying to you. So your body, I'm thankful that we have these responses because our bodies keep us alive, our brains keep us alive. But then our brains can also lie to us. And that's what's happening right now. And so for those moms to recognize that, and because a child's brain, because their bodies are lying to them, if we remove them from that, stimulus that they're having, that uncomfortable thing, whether it's coming to school, taking the test, talking to another adult. When we remove that, we don't allow them to experience that. We reinforce that, yeah, you're right. That was scary and dangerous.
You can't go through it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then we send them the message that you're not able to do this. And that's a dangerous message to send a child.
At that age, especially, because that's when they're middle school, is when they're trying to figure out who they are.
Right.
And they're building their confidence.
They're building their confidence and they're building their autonomy. And I say confidence needs evidence. So they need to experience the discomfort, and it might happen through the tears.
So, for instance, if your child comes to you and he or she is crying and they don't want to go to school, and you encourage them and you get them to the front door.
Yeah.
And they go through the door.
Yeah.
You as a mom, stand there, hold your tongue, cheer them on, like they go through. And then when they get home from school, maybe say, hey, look what you did today.
Yes.
I am so proud of you. Like you did overcome that. And you can do hard things. I used to tell my kids, you can do hard things.
Right.
And I believe in you.
Right.
And sometimes when a child doesn't believe in themselves, we as moms need to believe in them for them.
We have to believe in them. And so for those moms, recognize that removing them from that thing can be harmful.
Yeah.
So pushing them to that experience that's challenging and difficult and feels uncomfortable, that is a strategy. you're not harming them. Anxiety is not harmful.
Right.
So it's not causing any permanent damage in their body.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lie that our systems just fire.
Sure.
And it's a lie, but it's not harmful.
Right.
Like some of those psychosomatic, I don't think we talked about that, but that's a big one for those symptoms, or those psychosomatic symptoms like stomach ache, the headaches. Those are really big, I would say, in adolescence and in elementary school. But those moms pushing them through those hard feelings and those those sensations and believing them. It's because I believe in you that you can do this.
Right.
And, if you have to, and we do this in counseling all the time, where we find strengths from something, it can be completely unrelated. Like, hey, that soccer match, a passion of theirs, you push through that and look what you did. Even the smallest thing, building on those small wins through the hard time. And it just increases the wins for them, right? So like you said, they made it to school that day, or maybe they just made it to 2 periods. Like, you did it.
Yeah.
And if they're like, well, I was crying and I got sick, I had to go to the bathroom 4 times. Oh my goodness, you only went 4 times.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the verbiage too and how you talk to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's good.
Really
That's
pointing
good.
it out. And I believe in you, you can do this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, can you pull back the curtain a little bit and kind of tell us kind of what your role is as a middle school counselor looks like in all of this? Because, I mean, I remember in middle school, I was just a plethora of all kinds of knowledge that mom knew everything that was going on in middle school. So that's a joke. So what does a middle school counselor, what does your day look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I think a lot of people, they don't know.
Right.
And then when do we involve the school? All of those things. And the students are my job.
Yeah.
So, and specifically with anxiety, I mean, I have parents and I have students that I'm out at the parking lot pulling kids in from the car. And that's what we do. And I'm so thankful that the parents have gotten them that far and have called me.
Sure.
Because I'd rather that than them pull out of school completely. Because I've had that happen. And it's really hard to get them back.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing them into the school, right? And school counselors, all in our county, I know, I talk to them there. We're all in the parking lot, right? We're pulling kids into the school. And we're that resource for them. So the teachers are calling us, hey, the student in the class is feeling anxious. They want to come see you. And students have access to the school counselor. That's what we do. And so we're seeing kids from class.
So you're a safe person
We're
for
a safe
them.
person.
They trust you.
And it can be hard because I'm going to push them. So it is not in your best interest to live this way with this anxiety. So I may push you. I'm working really closely with our nurse because of those psychosomatic complaints that, they're having their stomach aches. And it's not the queso from Sunday night, right?
Sure,
like the family goes to the Mexican restaurant every Sunday, and then Monday we are having a stomach ache. Although it might be the queso, right? It is likely anxiety when these kids are continuing back to the nurse and there's nothing wrong. Constant headaches. We even have students with diarrhea. And it feels hard. And that's like parents are maybe keeping them home and it's not helping. And so we're working really closely with our nurse. So she'll send us students, like they came to her and they're really okay. And she sends them to us and it's really anxiety.
Yeah.
So we'll sit with them for a little bit and we'll kind of talk through that process. And then I'm going to walk them to class. And we're going to go to class. It's going to be hard. And you're going to do it.
Yeah.
This might be a silly question. Do you stay in the class with them or do you just walk them in and then kind of be like, I'll check on you and like, I guess it depends on the kid.
Right. And that's not a silly question at all because some kids need that. Like, and parents don't know because they're picturing their sweet baby, their little 8-pound, 2-ounce.
That's right.
Little friend.
That's right.
Those baby pictures. That's what they're picturing all alone in the school.
Yeah.
In
by
crisis.
themselves.
Right. So depending on the student, I might be sitting with them in class. And I have done that for many students for much of the day. And my goal is that we're going to have success you made it through class. And maybe tomorrow I don't have to spend 30 minutes in class. Maybe I just only have to spend 20.
So your goal is almost like when you're trying to get your child to go to bed and sleep by themselves, you're just slowly backing out of the room, good night, kind of thing. You can do this.
And again, it depends on the child.
Yeah.
Because there are some kids, it's just, I'm going to walk you back.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get in class. And I will say 9 times or 99 times out of 100, once they're in class, it's distracting. And anxiety loves distraction. And there's a lot going on at school, which is why I encourage moms, push through the hard thing at home, because once they get to school, they're super distracted.
Right.
It can be hard to feel that anxious feeling all day long. They're really not, because so much is happening in our buildings.
Yeah, there's so much going on.
So we walk them back to class and they might reappear again. Walk him back again. And I had a student this week, and it was a Monday scary, right? Where we're having the Monday scaries. And
Do you call it that?
Yeah, sometimes,
Good.
right? Sometimes.
I think it's good to name it.
Yes, absolutely. To name it. And she's having a hard time. And there's things going on out, in her home life, right? That are contributing to it. But that doesn't mean she should go home.
Right.
And so walked her back to class multiple times. And then we looked forward. We looked future, to the future in the afternoon. And I said, I'm going to be right out here in our little atrium when you head to your PE class.
Yeah.
And so I'll be looking for you, and you'll come and see me, and I'll look at you.
Yeah. Secret code.
Yeah. And I'll walk you to class. So she knew I was already going to be doing that.
Yeah.
So she didn't have to come find me. It wasn't like, again, it was something we kind of had an appointment. And so I walked her to PE, and she was great. And she even had a test in the next class after that. And she didn't reappear, but I went and checked on her. So I think it's important for the parents to know, for those moms to know, we're not just, go back to class.
Yeah.
I go and I'll check on my frequent flyers.
Yeah.
When they don't know I'm checking on them. So I'll look through the window of the classroom.
Oh.
And I looked through the window of the classroom in her final period of the day, and she is laughing with friends.
Oh, that's so good.
And that's good for the parents to know, because they're okay.
Yep. That's
And
right.
she made it. And then I walked in after I saw how she was. Then I walked in, I kind of tapped her on the shoulder, and we were at dismissal. So, it was kind of like a loose time. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you look amazing.
Yeah.
You did it. And you had a quiz.
Yeah.
And she's smiling.
And how can she not feel good about herself at that point?
Right.
And that's what we want. And if you have day after day where she has little triumphs every single day, by the end of the year, she's going to be in a better place than she was.
And it goes back to that confidence needs evidence. And so I'm pointing out to her, even when she didn't realize, look, you're in class and it's fine. And that worry, she's worrying about some things at home, that worry, it's okay.
Yep.
You didn't need to touch base with your parents.
Right.
You made it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so good.
That's so good. I love that. And we were talked about last week with tweens, how sometimes the mom and dad don't have the answer, but then our small group leaders growing up were such a vital piece in growing up, and knowing and also thinking about our guidance counselors, in middle school and high school, how sweet they were, and knowing I could go talk to them.
Yeah.
It's just a game changer for those students too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, honestly, Sarah was a game changer for Abby, because Abby did not have a good middle school, high school career. And Taco Tuesdays were
Taco Tuesday.
They were one of her favorites. She's like, Mom, I'm going to Sarah's for Taco Tuesdays.
Well, honestly, she babysat for us too.
I know.
So we got a lot of
we got a lot of Abby. We'd come home, the kids are already in bed, and we'd just hang out. We love that.
That's so
well.
fun.
She loved y'all, and I loved y'all because y'all were her friends, and she had 30-something-year-old friends.
I know. Is that weird?
I loved it because it filled her cup, and she didn't have any good friends at school. Yeah. So you guys were it, and I loved it. You and some other key adults. So, okay, well, that's all the time we have. I could talk about this and talk about this and talk about this, but next week we're going to continue talking about it with Sissy Golf. But before you go, I want to ask you. We always leave moms with an encouraging note. What's one practical thing that you can tell moms today that if their child is suffering or struggling in this anxious world, and there's a lot to be anxious about? What's one practical, encouraging thing you would share?
Yeah. So I would say that it is okay for them to be uncomfortable.
Okay.
That that feeling, that anxiety, it's okay for them to feel that way. It's not the mom's fault.
Right.
And it's okay for them to feel that way, and you don't need to fix it. Like, you don't have to have an answer for it.
Right.
Just saying, oh yeah, it is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Because you know what? A lot of times, just talking about Abby, there's things in a mom's world we can't fix.
Right.
Like, I could not fix her friend problem.
Right.
I couldn't call up. I wanted to call up everybody and be like, you're being a jerk, or your daughter's being a jerk. But I couldn't do that. So she had to work through it, like you said. And I will say it made her a very strong individual.
Right.
And very compassionate towards others.
Right.
As she grew and all that. So,
and that's what in the school world, we have even less control over fixing their world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just a school counselor.
Yeah.
I'm not at home with them.
Yeah.
I'm not in every class with them. And so I have less control over fixing those things. And it's not my job to fix those things, but it is my job to reveal their strengths and to point those out to them. And so creating an environment where they can have success,
right,
and feel that strength.
Yeah,
that is something that I can do. So I can't fix if the parents are going through a divorce, if things are up in the air, mom and dad are traveling, things are hard. Maybe there's an illness. There's a really bad illness.
Yeah,
I can't fix that.
No,
but you can do it. You can get through it. Right. You can do the hard thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming out. And you've been at school all day today. This is late. I really appreciate you making the time and the effort.
Thank you. This is so fun. I can't believe Birds on a Wire moms.
Yes. It's been so fun. And I remember when you were in the class with Liliana was a baby, little.
I was a disaster.
Oh, well. No, you weren't.
You can do it. And you pushed through the hard things, Sarah.
Yes.
You did it.
Now she's in middle school.
Look at you now. I love it. Well, thank you for being on. We really love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Sarah.